So how close were the RFU to moving England out of Twickenham to a new HQ? It's a pretty big story to talk about, very interesting, but we had lots of important rugby championship stuff to get in first, so I've only just got around to it. My apologies. But I want to give my views, and also I want to know what your views are here as well, because it's a really interesting thing. I mean, the headline is they are staying at Twickenham now, but they definitely considered other options. Now, Twickenham Stadium has been on its current site since 1907, when it was bought for £5,500. The land was used for vegetables, including cabbages, hence it being known as the Cabbage Patch. And it's been redeveloped a great deal since then. I mean, check out these older pictures of Twickenham. It's really interesting stuff. But they had two choices here to stay at Twickenham. They could have gone for the essential revamp, which still costs many millions indeed, or the full modernisation, which frankly was unaffordable. So they've decided to go for the essential revamp because they want to get it up to standard, if you like, although all these revamps to Twickenham is kind of just like giving a dinosaur a new hat and a new iPhone and saying off you go. But it is, of course, better than not doing it at all, and they had to do it. These were essential revamps to keep this old stadium in good condition and to keep it fit for purpose as well as you can in the modern era. Of course, Twickenham is in London, and plenty of prestige which goes with that, international visitors, all that sort of thing, accessibility from the London area. But of course, it is down south, which means a lot of England isn't within reach of Twickenham easily. But for those of you who live in London or have been to London a lot, you know there is a lot of insane money swilling around London, and the RFU just couldn't turn that down. So actually, when they did the numbers, it was better to stay at Twickenham, not just the history, of course, although they've kind of sold off some of that already because now it's the Allianz Stadium, Twickenham. But anyway, it is a good location in some respects. There is lots of money there. It's a big stadium. You can fit a lot of people in it. They get a decent amount of income, so there's no good reasons to stay. But really, it's not ideal because it is a very old stadium. Like I said, giving a dinosaur an iPhone, it looks okay, but deep down, it's still a bit of a dinosaur. Ideally, what would they like to do if money wasn't an issue? Well, probably knock the whole thing down and start again, very similar to what the FA did with Wembley. But that cost the FA an arm and a leg, and it definitely would bankrupt the RFU, so they can't do that. And also there's this sunk cost fallacy you've got to consider, where all this past investment makes you twitchy to move, but that shouldn't affect future decisions. It's a decent example of that. But of course, in order to do that, they'd have to sell Twickenham. I wonder who would buy a massive, old, expensive stadium. I'd like to have seen it, that's for sure. In need of further modernisation, of course, if they sold it and hadn't done the modernisation, which is due to start in 2027, where there's the least impact, if you like. It is the World Cup warm-up games that would have to be moved. So they could move to Wembley, and there are some big pros to moving to Wembley. Let me know if you think the RFU should have done that. Of course, you are sharing the home ground of England football and England rugby. The pros being you share the cost with the FA. So, of course, big modern stadium, the FA saves money, the RFU saves money in the long run. It's a pre-made, modern, huge stadium, so the RFU doesn't have to wait for their stadium to be remodelled up to that standard. It's there already. Good train access. If you've been to Wembley, it is a very good stadium. Amazing to watch football in. Still in the capital, so you get all that money, all that prestige of being in the capital. And I guess it does have a history of being the home of English sport. But of course, the big con, or one of the big cons, is it's football. And do you want to mix football and rugby? You've kind of been, enemies, if you like, good enemies for a while now. There could be a backlash to that. You lose the history, of course. And it is big money to buy half of Wembley. It's not a cheap option. They certainly looked at it. You're going to share the cost of Wembley, but also you're going to share the income as well. So loads of pros and cons. I bet they considered it very, very closely. I wonder how close they were to going with that deal. Now, the left field option, which they discussed, was considered, or I should say the Greenfield option, is to move it out of London completely. Sell Twickenham for sure, but go to a greenfield site somewhere completely undeveloped and start from scratch. Pros say if it's in Birmingham, which they discussed, more central for everyone in England to get to, it's fairer, that's for sure, and the possibilities are huge for a brand new stadium. Modern stadiums are unbelievable. If you've been to, say, the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, amazing technology, and modern stadiums coming up over the years are going to be better and better. So you could do amazing stuff with modern tech. You could bring maybe all of England's training facilities onto site. You can have a bigger footprint, have more around it, more hospitality, all that sort of thing. There are more ways to generate income. You can have a really good venue for concerts and stuff like that. Cons are you lose the history of Twickenham, you move out of the capital, you lose the money and prestige of being in the capital, and of course it's going to cost an arm and a leg to build a brand new stadium. Do they have that sort of money? And who's to say it's going to be a success moving out of London? It would be a bit of a risk. So anyway, so interesting that they considered all these options. I've talked about some of the pros and cons as I see it, but please let me know what you think about it. What would have been a good option? Is it correct to stay at Twickenham and do kind of the bare minimum to get it up to some sort of standard? Still a good place to watch rugby, still very enjoyable. I'm applying to media accreditation for one of the autumn internationals. I do love going there. But yeah, let me know what you think. Is this a trick missed, or is this absolutely the right decision? Comments below, and I'll catch you next time.